Ladies and gentlemen, there has been a flood in my inbox over the last few days of people panicking about circumstances. So I felt it necessary today to help you understand that your circumstances, no matter how big, no matter how small, do in fact not matter. And I can say that with confidence. And I can say that any of you right now going, well, what about this? In my comment section, you will still abide. Those will still follow this same principle because circumstances in and of themselves do not matter as long as you do the right work. If you keep letting them play out in your mind, then you are making them matter, but not because they do matter, but because you are giving them the power to. So without further ado, let's dive in. I'm not sure how I want to do this one exactly, so I've not put up the usual points. I'm just going to flow with it today. But this is an analogy that I really like for circumstances and how they work. Your reality is like a fluid. Your reality simply follows your consciousness. And in this case, your consciousness is these containers. Whatever container you put your fluid in, it will take shape of that container. So take, for example, if you're in a state of lack, in consciousness, you are lackful, you create a reality that provides you proof of that lack. The fluid, reality is fluid, the fluid of your reality takes shape of that container. If you then do the work, you take that lack container and pour that fluid out into an abundant state or a state of having, that reality, that fluid, now takes shape of that container, consciousness. Because reality is like a fluid, it is never set in stone. Even, and I want you to take this as a good thing, but I will use it for example, even when things are good, they are not set in stone. If you decide then to go on an absolute meltdown within consciousness, you run the risk of losing it. But of course, if you do the right stuff, then it is set in stone because it will stay committed to these states of consciousness. So what we have here, you have this container right now, your consciousness. In it, but I'll just put third party just for example. This container is the consciousness of there being a third party. Therefore, the fluid that is your reality has to mold to fit shape. Because your subconscious mind is merely just, how could I project this? How could I show this? Your subconscious mind is merely just trying to prove to yourself, I suppose, that the stories that they have are true. So see it like a funnel. The conscious mind, I'll just do it small here. The conscious mind feeds the subconscious mind a story, and the subconscious mind expresses it out on this screen of space to prove those stories as true. Think of it like literally trying to just prove a point, I suppose. Conscious mind feeds the subconscious mind, which then pushes it out for you to experience in reality. Now that it's in reality, it proves that conscious mind correct. And this is how, if you'll sort of remember from Monday's video, this is how we get stuck in that cycle of just constantly replicating things if we let bad stuff in our reality take control of our mind. But this is essentially the vastly simplified, but the way that it works. Conscious mind impregnates subconscious mind with story. Subconscious mind brings it to term in your reality. Now that it is in your reality, you now go, there it is, and create more of it, both good and bad. So using this example with this situation of a third party, you have the consciousness of there being a third party, you feed it to your subconscious mind creates it. Your reality, being fluid, fills this conscious container of there being a third party perfectly. If you then decided, I'll use this one, if you then decided that your person has only you then take that container and pour it into here. So you take away the fluid inside the 3P container and pour it in this only me container, leaving that one empty of any power and this one filled. This, I suppose you'd conscious mind, subconscious mind, then it plays out and that's what puts into this container. But this is how your reality works. In every given moment, you are just bouncing from container to container with your reality. Every day that you wake up with a different state of consciousness, you just fill a new container. I'll just do another one of these for now. A bit of a rectangle one. You're just filling up new containers with this reality based on the states of consciousness. This reality is not set in stone. You decide it all because the subconscious mind only goes off of what you are feeding it, which is the next aspect of this to take into consideration. You're probably sitting there thinking something along the lines of, well, that's all well and good, but my reality seems so solid, but things don't seem to be working out in my favor. But no matter what I do, yada, yada, yada. Those statements in and of themselves are deciding the container that it goes into, keep in mind. But your subconscious mind, and I've used this example before, but I quite like it, so I'm just going to give it here. Let me draw a little thought bubble, blah, blah, blah. Your subconscious mind, usually I give the analogy of being in the back of a CD store, but I'm actually going to use the example of being in prison. Your subconscious mind is in prison, has no understanding, recollection, information of what is in the outside world. The only information that it gets is from its jailer, who in this case is the conscious mind. Is the conscious mind, who goes to it and says, hey, this thing is happening. This celebrity has just announced that they're marrying this other celebrity. That may be a complete lie, but the subconscious mind, being stuck in jail, has no idea that it's not the true thing, and therefore just has to go on the assumption that that's what creates. Now replace, just for a moment, the subconscious mind with some creative genie for this analogy. This jailer goes, these celebrities are together, and the genie goes, oh, cool, that's true. And then thus it happens. That is exactly what the subconscious mind is doing. The conscious mind is feeding the subconscious mind information. And it's not exactly this way in terms of the anatomy, but for the purposes of this analogy, the subconscious mind sits in the back of your head in like a dark little room and just has to keep pumping it out the stories that it's fed into reality. So the conscious mind goes up to the subconscious mind, says, I have my person, we're together. The subconscious mind goes, oh, great, makes that happen. On top of the fact that it doesn't know what the difference between past, present, and future to be separate entities, the subconscious mind also has no concept. Hang on. No, sorry, I just gave away my next point. The subconscious mind doesn't know what's true or false outside of what the conscious mind tells it. It also has no recollection of the past, the present, and the future as separate entities. It thinks that they are all one, which is why, you may have experienced stuff as a young 7-year-old boy, and now you're 41 years old, but you're still experiencing the same reactions and patterns and so on as you did back then, because your subconscious mind absorbed the story at that point, and because you haven't resolved it, it doesn't go, you're 34 years older now, it's probably gone. It still thinks you're that little boy, because when it comes to mind, it still thinks that you are there in that past as though it is the present. The now is the only thing that exists to the subconscious mind. So if you're thinking of things of the past and attaching a feeling to it, it's like, cool, that's happening now, which is why we keep having patterns play out. Murphy's law, for example, is the idea that something that we fear to pass will eventually come to pass. Well, yeah, because the future isn't separate to the subconscious mind. So if you're dwelling in an outcome and attaching fear to it, it thinks it's happening now, thus creating it, bringing it to pass. So take those two components, the fact that it doesn't know the difference between past, present, and future as separate entities, and it doesn't know what is real outside of what the conscious mind feeds it, what we have here is an infinite power source. I'm just going to do little squiggles. Infinite power source that goes off of your direction and doesn't realize the time. What I mean by that is it doesn't realize that it's been a month since you were left on red, a year since you were left on red, or anything. If you are feeding it that you will receive that message now, you will receive that message now, basically. Maybe not exactly in this moment, it has to obviously create it in reality and such, but if you're feeding it the idea that you have this message, even if it's been a day, week, month, year, you will receive it. So take these two components into reality. It only goes off of your direction, not the 3D's direction. And there's no concept of past, present, and future. The second that you decide, let's say that this is a little timeline. The second here, you're like, you know what? I'm committing to thought, feeling, and awareness of having what I want. Anything that has happened before is now nullified, and the subconscious mind will start to create, because it has no concept that it's been 6 months since you were dwelling negatively, for example, because it doesn't understand the concept of time. It understands the concept of stories provided it through your direction. So the reason that circumstances in and of themselves do not matter is because at any moment you can decide, I have it, this thingy here. Any moment you can decide that I have it. Thus it takes in that direction. And because it doesn't understand past, present, and future as separate entities, it just assumes that the now is all that exists. Anything from the past, anything that you feared about the future, is completely nullified, assuming that now, in this present moment, you are dwelling in I have it. If you can do that, anything that is in the way, any obstacles, anything like that, are completely removed. Because the subconscious mind doesn't see obstacles outside of what you feed it, because you are the only one that feeds information. Your subconscious mind doesn't see this terrible past if you're replacing it with this new stuff, because it says this is the new programming. The subconscious mind doesn't go, well, the future doesn't look too bright, because you're the one feeding it the information. And this can happen regardless of what your circumstances are. Let me give you a little personal, I suppose you could call it a success story, but I personally wouldn't, just because of the play out, but I think you can take some good stuff from it. You know, when you're just kind of thinking about your past, I imagine we all do this from time to time. We just think about our past, and this could be people that you've dated, jobs that you've had, and things like that. Katie and I were having a conversation about something, and it brought to mind someone that I had previously dated, only for like a flash second. It was literally just like, oh yeah, you know, this reminds me of that person. And it was very minimal. But then later on that night, I sort of was, while I was falling asleep, I started thinking about a chunk of my past, including this person a little bit. Not, you know, they weren't the main focus, but it was like this period of time. And lo and behold, literally, it must have been 3 days later, I got a follow request from this person. And then 2 days later, because I didn't accept it, you know, someone that I previously dated, I'm in a relationship with someone, I'm not going to accept your follow request. Like, that's just, it crosses a boundary in my view. So I didn't accept it. A couple of days later, another follow request. Now this is on my personal, which is on private, and I literally never use it. So it's out of character for me to get requests on there. Sometimes I get some from viewers, because I think you may see it as like a suggested when you're on my business account. But from people that I know that I just don't have following me yet, it's very uncommon. And it was another one of her accounts. It was like I guess a backup account or something like that. Again, I ignored it. The only way that I knew it was hers was because it had a link to her Snapchat. And another couple of days goes by with me ignoring it, and I get another one. And I'm not sure if this one was her. It said her name in like the bio, but this had like, I think it was just one post, and it was on private, so I couldn't see it or anything. Might have just been a coincidence, but it was the same name as this person who tried to follow me on 2 other accounts, so it's unlikely to have been someone else. And this came from a fleeting 5 minutes worth of thinking at most of this person. because all I was doing was thinking of my time with this person with no opposing stories. You know, we stopped dating just the way people that have only been dating for a little while kind of do. You know, this isn't for me. I'm going to head off, sort of thing. So there was no animosity, there was no negative feelings. It was just a disappearance with no contrary thoughts. Well, this was the past, right? I was thinking, that's a terrible error. I was thinking of my past. But in the moments that I was thinking of my past, my subconscious mind assumed that it was happening now and made it so that my future brought her to pass. Of course, I didn't do anything with it. I didn't even accept the follow request. But this is a perfect example of how it doesn't matter how long it's been. The last time I spoke to this person was probably 6 years ago at best. And that wasn't even when we were dating. That was literally just a little while after Katie and I got together, where she popped up and I said, hey, look, I'm, dating someone. So, whatever. But this was, that was the last time I even spoke to her. The last time I saw her was years before that. So I can't remember the timeline very well, but it was a while before that. So this happened with 5 minutes worth of thinking, with no contrary stories, because my subconscious mind didn't sit there and say, well, that can't be happening because you haven't heard from her in ages. That can't be happening because you're in a relationship. That can't be happening because it's been so long. That can't be happening because of XYZ. It said, oh, in this present moment, you're thinking about her. Thoughts. And because I was thinking things about our time together only briefly, those are still synonymous with having her, because the thoughts were our time of dating, I suppose. So my thoughts were that of having her, despite me not having her. They were only fleeting and they were about the past. But because my thoughts in that moment were having her as though I do now, my subconscious mind brought her to pass. Now, I don't know the intentions of the follow. It might have been something completely innocent, like, hey, been a while, how you doing? Or something like that. But let's say, for example purposes, I continued on that train of thought and decided to go with what my subconscious mind was bringing me. Who knows? It could have led to whatever I was thinking, or replications of it, just simply by dwelling on a few thoughts. Now, the reason why that happened so quickly for me, and sometimes isn't for you guys, is because I don't care about this person anymore. It's been many, many years now. Hopefully she's living a great life, but we're not to cross paths again. I don't have contrary thoughts. It's not like I sit there thinking, oh my God, she hates me, she's never going to want me. I don't have any need. I don't have anything like that. So there was no contrary story to stop the creation of my few thoughts. And if you think hard enough, you've probably had something like this as well. Someone that you weren't interested in has come up after a few thoughts, or with little effort. It's just a similar sort of thing. But this is why circumstances don't matter, because reality is just following the container of consciousness. And your container is whatever your conscious mind is feeding your subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind literally can only go off of what the conscious mind is feeding it. Therefore, the reality that it creates has to fit that container. It has to. The only way it wouldn't fit that container is if then you start dwelling in other consciousnesses, which creates a new container for it to fill, and it replicates. So this is why, how long has this video been? 18 minutes, not too bad. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, your circumstances do not matter. Because obstacles are a conscious creation. In physical reality, there may be obstacles, but those obstacles being fed to your subconscious mind is a conscious action. If you don't feed those obstacles to your subconscious mind, it cannot use them to create. So your subconscious mind sees nothing on the external, and it doesn't know how long something's been, how far in the future it could be realistically, quote unquote, to create something. It simply just says, you're feeding me this now, I'll create. If the conscious mind, I always do that. If the conscious mind is only feeding abundance, that is all you will get. If your conscious mind is feeding abundance, but there's some blocks, you may find yourself experiencing blocks, because blocks don't exist. There is nothing in this 3D reality that will stop you getting what you want outside of what you consciously decide will stop you getting what you want. I used this example a couple of videos ago, but it's because I really like it. There's people out there that play games with their mouth. They've got like a special apparatus because they're either paralyzed or lost limbs or whatever. And they're able to play games with their mouth. That just blows my mind. When I was a kid, I used to be quite scared because gaming was always my big thing. When I was a kid, I absolutely loved it. I was always be scared that something would happen and I'd not be able to play games anymore. There was a time, I can't remember what it was that happened. Oh, I remember. I was trying to the air cap on a tire was super stuck. It was like freezing cold, so it must have like frozen to it a little bit. So I got some pliers and tried to like squeeze it and pull. And as I did it, the pliers, obviously because it was quite like slippy, slipped and like clamped my thumb. And if this was actually a couple of weeks ago, I'm not going to ask you to go do this because it's a bit weird, but a couple of weeks ago, if you pay attention to some of my videos, you'll see that I have like a really dark purple spot on one of my thumbs. It was from where obviously I'd pinched it and it like severely bruised. That hurt like hell. So when I was playing games with my friend, I was like, ow, I don't like this. Couldn't imagine what it would have been like playing with no limbs, let alone an injured one. And yet there's people out there doing it because blocks don't exist as far as what you consciously decide they do. So your circumstances don't matter no matter what it is, because your subconscious mind is what creates your reality, and your subconscious mind can only go off of what your conscious mind is feeding it. If your conscious mind feeds it a new story, it has a new container to fill, it creates a new outcome. If you can replicate this, no matter what happens in front of you, you will succeed. No matter how big your debt is, no matter how distant your person is, no matter how damaged your family is, no matter how broke you are, no matter how unqualified you are. Another little example, and there's a video on my channel from years ago where I talk about this if you want to go and see the video itself. I got hired into HR with having no HR qualifications. HR in the UK, I don't know if it's the same in other countries, but in the UK is a bit of like a haughty-taughty kind of role. I feel like everyone in HR thinks that they're better than everybody else. And I saw this a lot when I was working in HR. Honestly, some of the people, while they were lovely people, when it came to the fact that they were in HR, some of the phone calls that they were having with other workers and some of the meetings, it was like, you absolutely love the fact that you are stomping on this worker that has asked for an extra day unpaid leave to go see their daughter in hospital. Honestly, like, I don't know if every other place is like it, but you hear this all the time, and I saw it with my own eyes. But I didn't have qualifications to get into HR. I dwelled in the end result of being in HR. I got the job for being in HR. I went through the sales team. They didn't have a place for me anymore. The HR team just lost one of their employees, so I went and joined them, and I was in HR for like 9 months or something like that, and then went full time into doing this. The subconscious mind builds you the path. But your circumstances don't matter because your conscious mind is the only thing feeding your subconscious mind the stories to play out. Anything that you're feeding it consciously, it will take in and absorb. If you're allowing the 3D reality to affect consciousness, your conscious mind, so much so that you're feeding that information to the subconscious mind, that's why you keep getting what it is that you're getting. Not because the 3D is real, but because you are telling your subconscious mind this stuff is real. If you just committed to the thoughts of me and person are together, I have this job, I have this money, I have XYZ, that is all you will get. I hope this video has helped, ladies and gentlemen. This is why circumstances do in fact not matter. If you have enjoyed this video, drop me a like and a comment to let me know. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and be sure to click that bell icon. If you need my help on a one-to-one basis to overcome the guesswork that comes with this generalized YouTube content, and you want it tailored to your situation, no fluff, no BS, just what you need, I do have emails, video calls, and phone calls available for you. If you would like to be part of a private group where you can have access to all of my courses, all of my products, all of my exclusive videos, a private Telegram group where you can communicate with me and other like-minded individuals, and more, I do have the Academy available, and it's now available on a monthly subscription, which is cancelled anytime. So if you wanted to sort of dabble and have a look, you can absolutely sign up, try it out for a month, and then quit if you aren't ready. But once you're in, you will definitely want to stay in. But thank you very much for being here with me today. Like I said, drop me a like and a comment because it helps the algorithm. And I'll catch you lovely people in the next one. Bye bye.